3D pencil shading with Mr. Hansen. The first thing we want to do is look at our tools. We have a shading pencil, a sanding block, a sharpener, a stump, and a eraser. I like using these white erasers because it doesn't leave any pink marks like those pink erasers. This is a solid piece of paper that's blended and molded in. A nice sharpener. A sanding block is to sand the edge of your pencil if you want it really sharp, or to clean your eraser, or to clean your stump. So with that, and you can buy these tools from Walmart. You can buy them from Staples, Michaels, any art store that's around you. And this is part of the package that they sell. And this is a great toolkit here. It has charcoals, chalk pastels, eraser, blenders, a stump, sharpener, double sharpener for wide and narrow pencils, and you got shading pencils. Anyway, with that, we'll go ahead and get started. First thing I like to do is set up my values. When I teach shading, I always teach shading in layers and values. So I like to make a rectangle and divide it into 5 boxes. Now it doesn't have to be equal or precise. This works fine. The first box here, the value of shade, is what we call highlight. Highlight is the white of the paper. And then the next value is direct light. That's the value of light that hits the object that you're trying to shade. And the next one is reflected. That's just what it is, reflected light. It tells you exactly what it is. It's light that hits the table or the object that it's your shading object sitting on, and it bounces back up. And then the shadow. Now a lot of people think the shadow is the only part that goes on the table. And actually there's a shadow on the object and a shadow on the table. And then the last one is accent, which is our darkest value. And that's the value where the shadow that makes where it's sitting right next to the object. And we'll see how that works. And I do it in layers because layers allows you to blend from one value to the next value smoother. Okay, and so accent, I like having 8 layers, 6 layers on shadow, and 4 layers on reflected. So I'm going to take my pencil like this, let the weight of the pencil do all your work, and then you just go back and forth like this with your shading pencil. Now this shading pencil happens to be a 3B. Anytime you see the letter B on a pencil, that's a soft leaded, and that's what we use for shading. The other pencils that we use in school are a 2H, which is a hard pencil, and it's harder to blend those because the lead is so hard. Okay, so we have our values here of 8, and then we go to the shadow. Now the one thing I tell my students is don't worry if you happen to make the shadow value a little too dark. You can always go back to accent and darken it up, as long as you have these separate values. That's what's important. And reflected is 4. We just want to make sure that these values are separated. And direct light, I like using my finger, or you could use a blender. This is what it looks like if I use my finger. And if I take our blending stump and I get some graphite on it, and I use the edge. You've got to be careful not to use the tip, because the tip will make marks, and it's hard to blend those marks out. So that's our value line. This is called a value line in shading. The highlight is actually the white of the paper. So let's get